Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled Electrical Engineering Tales from the Dark Side, Boeing Antenna Range Gone. Now, I know I've neglected my electrical engineering friends here. I've been telling all these aviation and airline stories, so I'm going to try to make it up here. But this is to me a very sad tale because I spent a lot of time when I worked for Boeing in the as lead engineer in the microwave technology group. I spent a lot of time up the antenna range and a lot of time developing a lot of the capabilities we had there. And to see it gone is just sad. So let me tell you about a few things here. That red arrow is a test structure. It goes about 20 feet in the air, and we could put the whole front end of the B-52 or the tail end up there, and we could maneuver it around and take antenna readings and data. The blue arrow is the main area of the antenna range there, where we had a lot of the test equipment and a lot of the work was done. The yellow area there is the power lab. That's where we had high power capability to test various devices under very high power conditions. And I worked with my boss, Carl, on developing, getting some klystrons to do some very high high power microwave testing. And we developed a very nice capability that people came with us with contracts to use. The green arrow is the building I designed. It was actually, the building existed there, but I did quite an extensive modification to it, designed it to handle the testing of the B-52's strategic radar antenna test. We had to process almost 300 antennas through there on the development I did, where I more than doubled the accuracy that I talk about in another presentation. And the yellow dot is where we had one of the main feed points for the antennas that we beam towards various locations. This was an old fire station like watchtower, and it had the most rickety old rusted stairs going up. It was a pretty good height up there. It was kind of fun to climb up on the outside of this structure in these rickety old stairs. And I got some pictures of that in just a minute. Now, this is the inside of the lab area where we had all our test equipment and a lot of really good, expensive, really nice and capable test equipment where we could test all sorts of devices, and also this was part of the antenna test gear. And this is another picture, and you'll love the modern test equipment here. Look at that 5.25-inch floppy disk drive over there. And, well, I'd love to have this test equipment now. A lot of it is old and obsolete, but this was typical of the capabilities we had. And when I was doing work on the feed horn choke on the B-52 radar, that's this picture here. There was the test setup. The thing on the left is an emitter that operated in the microwave region, and the thing on the right is the part of the antenna that held the feed horn choke. And here I am taking a few preliminary patterns, trying to get a little bit of information on the pattern in this feed horn choke here before I took it apart and made some modifications to it and tested those also in this setup. Now, there is the, I think, forestry watchtower up there, and if you look carefully, you can see some round discs, which are the microwave dish antennas, and you can sort of see the ladders on the backside. Behind it is the old aviation terminal at Wichita. The McConnell Field, I guess, was the old airport, and that's the old terminal, which now is an aviation museum. Here is a picture from atop of the tower, and in the distance there you can see the main lab, and off to the side, it's a little hard to see. We've got some of the other structures. I'll show you those a little bit better here. And there's another view. You can see the absorber material there. On the left, that's where we tested the B-52 radomes. We had a facility for that and also could test the antennas there. And this is a picture up on the tower looking towards our main testing structure there with the diffusers down there, the absorbing material so we wouldn't get energy bouncing off the ground going to the test facility. And that tower there is about 20 feet tall, and it has a rotational device up there where we can put various items. And it was kind of interesting. You had to earn the respect of the technicians up there. And a lot of young engineers had trouble with that. Well, I came out of the Air Force, so it was kind of like working with crew chiefs. You know, I knew how to relate to these guys and how to really earn their respect. And even though, you know, you're an engineer and they're technicians, which is what caused a lot of the junior engineers trouble, you had to earn their respect. And you earned their respect, and it was very beneficial. But there was this scissors lift that would take you up to the top, and it would haul two people. And going to the full extent of about 20 feet, this thing got a little loose at the top. It would sway a good foot or more, and well, could be kind of unnerving, and especially if you were scared of heights. And I'm not saying I wasn't scared of heights. I was scared of heights, but I'd done a lot of antenna work, so it's something you get used to, and that's fine. So I would go up there with Ben, the lead technician, a chain-smoking, cowboy hat-wearing technician, just a really good guy, but he did not suffer fools gladly. But I'm going up there with Ben, and of course he steps off, and the thing sways a little bit. And, okay, yeah, that's nice. Well, whatever. And then I step off on the tower, and he kind of looks at me, and he smiles. And, well, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'd kind of passed a test there because he said I was virtually the only engineer that would come up that thing with him. He told me that later when we got to be kind of friends. And we got this new technician there, really a loudmouth. And, oh, yeah, I've climbed 2,000-foot towers. I'm not scared of heights at all. Well, I'm sitting in there one day in the main facility there, the main room, the test area. And I'm looking out there, and I notice he goes up in the lift there, and Lee's with him. And Ben steps off, and of course it does this little sway, and all of a sudden I see Lee on the floor, and Lee was a big guy, and I could see him visibly shaking. And I wonder what's going on there. So when they got back in there, I asked Ben, I said, Ben, what's going on? And he says, oh, brave Lee. He says, when I pushed off there, he hit the bottom. He was scared to death. Well, that kind of didn't go well for Lee's reputation, especially when he was very verbose about how he climbed up all sorts of 2,000-foot tall transmitting antennas, and it didn't bother him in the least. And there's another view looking now. This is looking for the main tower out towards the B-52 radome test area, and it's hard to see, but down the picture, that's a B-52 radome. We tested them upside down. And there's where we kept it stored. The front end of the B-52 where we could test antennas on that, and the back end tail area. During the Vietnam War, the B-52 was a high-altitude bomber, and it had some electronic countermeasure antennas that operated very well at high altitude. They beamed the signal down. But they started flying the B-52s at a much lower altitude, and the pattern for the electronic countermeasures was just not good. So they had to bring the front section of the B-52 radar, redo the antennas, and then we did antenna pattern tests on that. Here's another view from the test area back up looking towards the main tower. And this is a close-up of the area I told you about testing the B-52 radar and radomes. I don't have a radome in place, but that's the B-52 radar that I was working on in the strategic radar program. There's another view of it from the backside mounted on our test structure. There's a view looking forward towards the tower, and you can see the old terminal there in the background. There's actually the little tower, if you can see it there up on top to the left. And there's me in front of one of our booms there where we could test antennas. And there is the test area with a radome in the shed there, and a radome up mounted on the test facility there, and a little trailer there. Again, some of the absorber material, and there's one of the poles in the background where we could test antennas. And here doing a test on an antenna on the belly of a vehicle, and the pole's bent over. And you would bend the pole upright, and you could test antennas on round ground planes. You could test them on square ground planes. But in the end, they took away the majority of the structures. They left the major buildings there. The major test area and the high-powered lab is still there. And the facility that I designed for testing B-52 radars is apparently there. It was a more substantial building, but all the rest is gone. And this is just very sad. We had a very good test facility and had a lot of good people. In the end, when I left, they had a going away lunch for me, and all of the technicians showed up. And it was kind of interesting because my boss says the technicians never show up. And it was an interesting time because Ben was a lead technician. I come back from lunch one time. This is early on, and I had asked him to do some patterns. And I come back and I asked him how it's going, and he says, "This is total crap." I said, "You're wasting my time here. This is ridiculous." And I said, "Ben, what do you mean? What's the problem? Explain it to me." And he looked at me for a second because I didn't give him this big line about I'm the engineer and you do what I tell you sort of thing. I said, what did I do wrong? So we talked. And that was the start of a very good relationship because these guys could really save your bacon. Just because you're an engineer doesn't mean that you got all the answers, of course. And a lot of the times, it's the engineer who designs it and it's the technician who makes it work. And when you can work well with these guys, and I did, when you can work well with these guys, they can really help you out. And they were a great bunch of guys and a great bunch of people to work with. And I miss working with them. And that was a long time ago. And it's sorry to see the facility gone. I guess it's part of the Aviation Museum there. They've got a few airplanes parked there. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of Boeing antenna range history. Thanks for watching.